Before I begin, I want to speak briefly, and seems like the topic that should not be brief, but just to set the tone for where we go from here. Yesterday, obviously, many things got said. Of course, many things raised questions for many of you, and you deserve to have full disclosure on whatever we can disclose to you. The transparency, the idea of transparency is really important. If we're going to go forward together, we have to have trust in our leadership, and that means board and minister, with each other and with you. So I'm going to be meeting with the board very soon, our new board. Very excited about the quality of the individuals who are there, and talk about ways that we can become more transparent and what we can share with you and the questions that you are entitled to ask and the answers that we owe you. And in the context of that, I think we can heal a lot of what might remain in the ethers of this community around unanswered questions, suspicions. Very strong allegations were made, about me in some of the writings, and you deserve to know if that's true or not. So that's enough for now, but stay tuned. We will have forums for that kind of discussion, to bring that information to you, for you to ask your questions. Please let us know how we can rebuild your trust in the leadership of Unity of Santa Barbara. So when we have something difficult happen to us, I guess you could have guessed I would talk about that today. Let's see, what shall I talk about? I don't know. There's actually there's a whole number of topics that will follow this one that'll be related. And if you read the article I wrote kind of quickly last night called Collateral Beauty, I talked about the process over the last several weeks of dealing with this sort of gut punch, and that's the way I experienced it. And that at first I was inconsolable and strictly in my ego mind and very much inconsolable. And because of the grace of spiritual practice over so many years, and my intention to not stay stuck in a story that is a source of suffering, I knew that I would eventually find my way, but this time it felt like it was going to take a long, long time, It was going to be a long journey through the dark night until, the dawn finally emerged. But fortunately, it did not take that long, and I think I mentioned just a few days ago, I woke up, and the anxiety that had sort of been my bedside immediate companion to greet me as I awoke each morning, suddenly I realized was not in the room, was not in my space, and was not in my consciousness, and I felt this sense of well-being. It was immediately met by my mind that said, how irrational can you be? Nothing has changed, and yet somehow you're blissfully okay. And what I recognize is what every spiritual master has ever talked about, that underneath the pain, underneath the agitated mind, underneath the trying to reconcile the worldly events and the way people are and how we think life should be, all of the suffering that comes around that happens at a layer that is above the essence of who we are, the soul of us, whatever you want to call it. It's a deep existential place. It's the heart, and it's not affected by what happens out here. And I've given 100 or 1,000 sermons on this topic. And they say that if a minister lasts long enough, he'll have to live every sermon he's ever given. So I don't know if I should have quit earlier or maybe my best days are ahead, after this one, So, but quite honestly, and I'm not saying this just. This is not some kind of spiritual bypass or some, new age whitewashing of what is a difficult situation, not just for me, but for you, and not just for me going through this, but for what this community has gone through. It's not about us just putting it under the rug of some sort of spiritual affirmation that says all is well, even though it really is all well, because you and I are still human beings, and we still have to have rules of engagement. We still have to have ways of being in relationship with each other which support the highest possible harmony and connection and the fulfillment of our mission here at Unity of Santa Barbara. So more will be said about how we can do that better. But from the spiritual standpoint, I want you all to know the good news, the great news, is that within each one of us, there is a place that does not get touched by these difficult situations. And I know many of you know this from your own experience. And for those of you that don't, it's an opportunity for you to hearken to what the appearances of life do not show us, but the deep listening does reveal. So I want to, if you wouldn't mind, Penny, showing this clip. Some of you perhaps have seen the movie Collateral Beauty. I'll set it up before you play it. It'll be a little bit of a spoiler, but not too bad. So the story is about this man who's a very successful advertising executive, and he loses his precious daughter. She dies. And he's just inconsolable, and he's in the darkest kind of depression around this loss that he's had. And he's in this scene, he's meeting with another woman who has also had this same loss. And she is trying to describe to him this collateral beauty, this grace that I was just describing. So let's watch.
I have something that they were preparing Olivia
We're all very familiar with the term collateral damage, and much less so with collateral beauty. And, these spiritual teachings can just sound like, happy, happy, joy, joy, lovely words. But when you are really going through something that feels like a loss, something very difficult, they become like lifelines to your ability to move forward in life. The Apostle Paul said, "I die daily," and alluding to this idea that for us to really experience who and what we really are, to get to this collateral beauty, to have this experience of grace, that a lot of us must fall away. A lot of what we think we are, and all of these things that can be our losses in life can actually be the barriers to seeing who we really are. And that as much as we don't want to welcome these losses or, throw ourselves, upon the fickle finger of fate for everything that could be taken from us, we can recognize that those losses can actually be profitable to our spiritual awakening and can actually reveal more of our essence. Antonio Machado, who's a wonderful Spanish poet, wrote this poem, and he talks about how we can begin to glimpse this other reality, and we may miss it because we will make fun of it. We'll think it's just a dream. We'll think it's just fantasy, when it's actually trying to show us a deeper reality. And he says it this way: "Last night, as I was sleeping, I dreamt, marvelous error, that a spring was breaking out in my heart. And I said, Along which secret aqueduct, O water, are you coming to me? Water of a new life that I have never drunk. Last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt marvelous air, that I had a beehive here inside my heart, and the golden bees were making white combs and sweet honey from my old failures. Last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt marvelous air, that a fiery sun was giving light inside my heart. It was fiery because I felt warmth as from a hearth, and sun because it gave light and brought tears to my eyes. Last night, as I slept, I dreamt marvelous air, that it was God I had here inside my heart. It's important that we pick up all the cues and the clues in this life, because God or Spirit or truth is always pointing us in the direction of its presence. It can come through dreams. It can come in a time of profound and deep meditation. It can come when you're looking in the eyes of an innocent child. It can come when you're out in nature and for a moment all sense of separation goes away and you can feel this essential oneness. And these are all pointers to this reality that can stay below the surface of our awareness, can remain hidden from us until something breaks it open. And when life breaks down, sometimes it's our breakthrough. Do we know this? That a breakdown can become a breakthrough. I couldn't think of it. Thank you. I haven't been doing this for a while, so I'm. I tried to do it at home with Denise every Sunday morning, and she's like, "Just save it for your first Sunday." A setback is just a setup for a comeback. Yeah? Right? A setback is just a setup for a comeback. It's a reset. It can take everything that really doesn't matter in our life, and sometimes that can just be whisked away. It can be just wiped away by the ravages of time and circumstances and the actions of the universe. And it then can put us in a position where we now know what really matters. And we know what is essential to us. And that great, exfoliation process of life can get to that pure essence of our being, love itself, or joy, or peace, or the essence of who we are. So if we can allow the circumstances of our life to be for us, seen as being for us, then we don't have to stay in the tomb nearly as long. And the universe, or God, or Spirit, or love, it's good pleasure to show us this truth whenever we are ready to see it. When we're sincerely open-hearted, it shows itself. Or when we're tired of kicking and screaming and railing against life, sometimes we collapse. And in that moment of surrender, it reveals itself. And we see the collateral beauty. I need to end now because it's just about lunchtime. The Apostle Paul also said, "Count it all joy when you face trials of every kind." Now that's a bit of a stretch for me. I don't know about you, but what he meant by that is that going through trials can mature us spiritually. It can actually bring us to the highest intention that you and I have for a life, which is to wake up to who and what we are. The trials, Jesus said, there will be trials and tribulations in this life. He didn't say, if you're unlucky, or if you had a dysfunctional family that you grew up in, or he just it was a universal. There will be trials and tribulations in this life. And he said, be of good cheer, because there is an overcoming power, and that overcoming power is who and what we really are. That nothing that has ever happened to you in this life can defeat who you really are. There's a part of you, there's a part of me that's untouchable. That's the grace. Realizing that is the grace of this journey. And I am so grateful for the work, for the teachings that we have here in Unity, because it is the great sanctuary that you and I have within. Whether we're in this space or anywhere in the world, we carry that sanctuary with us. That grace goes with us. And it is that which can set us free and reset us back to do our life, do our work in the world again, to know what is ours to do. Yes? And to take that role, now that we see that we are more invulnerable to the ravages of life, we can feel the strength of that and then step into who and what we have been called to be and to say yes to that. For the 62 members that joined the church, so inspiring that people in the midst of something that was traumatic heard the call to become engaged, to become involved, to step up and to make a difference. Is that what the world needs? Yes. It does. Is that what this community needs? Yes. And we all have a part to play. The leaders clearly have a part to play. And then I said to you, we will be accountable to you going forward. We don't have all the answers. We don't have all the resources we need in the moment. But we have the willingness, we have the wisdom, we have the love for this community. We care about you. We care about what happens here. And so we know that that's all that we need to go forward. God bless.